We live? Yeah. Hell yeah. This is Deflationary Tech, and this is the state of DeFi. Today, we're going to be talking about Three Arrows Capital. Also, we're going to be talking about Bin Laden. Nah, I'm just kidding. We ain't talking about Bin Laden. We're talking about our boy, our president, Biden. He went to see the prince. Yeah, the prince. You didn't hear about it? Yeah. You about to go handle that oil business, baby. Yeah, man. Okay, sidetrack. So I went to the airport and so from my house to the airport, that's about 3 hours. I'm at full tank. When I get to the airport, it's half a tank. I go to the gas station, I fill it up. $60. Drive back home. Guess where the tank's at? Half a tank. Another $60. Bro, that's $120. Gosh. Biden go figure it out, man. Whew. Hopefully he figures it out. Guess who was there though? I'll let you know. I'll let you know towards that. I'm sidetracking. I'm like, after he goes meet the prince, I'll let you know who else goes talk to the prince. So, Three Arrows Capital. The rise and fall of Three Arrows Capital. The hedge fund started in 2012. So it took them basically 10 years from 2012 to 2022. And then in like 6 months, they fall. Golly. They were worth $10 billion. How do you lose $10 billion? Well, let's see some articles. Maybe it'll explain it a little bit more. Let's check this out. Oh, look at Micah Saylor. Rich as hell. Hell yeah. All right. Okay, from 10 billion to zero. How a crypto hedge fund collapsed and dragged many investors down with it. The bankruptcy filing from Three Arrows Capital triggered a downward spiral that wrapped in many crypto investors. The hedge fund failed to meet margin calls from its lenders. 3AC was supposed to be the adult in the room, said Nik Bhatia, professor of finance and business economist at the University of California. As recently as March, Three Arrows Capital managed about 10 billion in assets. $10 billion in assets, making it one of the most prominent crypto hedge funds in the world. Now the firm, also known as 3AC, is headed to bankruptcy court after the plunge in cryptocurrency prices and particularly risky trading strategies combined to wipe out its assets and leaving it unable to repay the lender. repay lenders. The chain of pain may just be beginning. 3AC had a lengthy list of counterparties or companies that had their money wrapped up in the firm's ability to at least stay afloat. With the crypto market down by more than 1 trillion since April, led by the slide in Bitcoin and Ethereum, investors with concentrated bets on on firms like 3AC are suffering consequences. Crypto exchange blockchain.com reportedly faces a 270 million hit on loans to 3AC. Ooh. Meanwhile, digital assets brokerage Voyage Digital filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection after 3AC couldn't pay back the roughly 670 million it had borrowed from the company. US-based crypto lender Genesis and BlockFi crypto derivative platform BitMEX and crypto exchange FTX are also being hit with losses. Credit is being destroyed and withdrawn. Underwriting standards are being tightened. Solvency is being tested. So everyone is withdrawing liquidity from the crypto lender, said Nik Carter, a partner at Castle Island Ventures, which focused on blockchain investors. All right. We're not going to go any further with this. Man, it looked like 3 Hours Capital was playing a monkey game or something. I don't know, man. It was borrowing from one person to the other, basically, hurting those other companies. And then you seen from the other episode I had that they try to get CZ. Bro, don't mess with CZ. Don't mess with my avatar. CZ's my damn avatar. He's my strength spirit. I think I got that wrong. Yeah, I definitely got that wrong. But it definitely sounds like they had a lot of greed. And in the crypto market, there tends to be that we should have bought more, or a lot of companies thought Bitcoin was going to go to 100K. It didn't get there. It fell short. It hit $69,000. So I'm guessing a lot of these hedge funds, even when they were falling, they were trying to grab anybody to make them solvent. Yeah. You got to worry about these CFIs. Worry about, well, you know what I say. If it's not your keys, it's not your coins. And whatever is in an exchange, if it falls, it falls. If it dies, it dies, But that's pretty interesting right there. Do we got anything else? Let's hear some other people.
defensive, Davies and Xu, speaking from an undisclosed location, described a systemic failure of risk management in which easy-flowing credit worsened the impact of wrong-way bets. So the former Credit Suisse traders pointed to trades involving Grayscale Bitcoin Trust and Terra's Luna and UST tokens as contributing majorly to the blow-up. They also called the collapse regrettable and said they believed in everything they set out to do to the fullest. They also said that they had to go into hiding because of death threats from what they called some crazy people in crypto, and the plan is to end up in Dubai and continue the 3AC liquidation process. There's quite a bit more in here, but first of all, nice to hear from them. I'm sure a lot of people, no doubt, were waiting very impatiently. Kind of sounds like they're trying to throw the blame around here a little bit, but for me, the standout was this statement from Zhu that sort of canceled out everything they said about, it being the fault of so many other things. Zhu said that if we were more on our game, we would have seen that the credit market itself can be a cycle, and that, we may not be able to access additional credit at the time that we need it, if kind of, it hits the fan. This is like what we heard from the Fed Reserve Chair Jerome Powell recently when he said, "Now we know better how little we understand inflation." I'm so glad that this was like a learning experience for you guys, but so much money was involved and so many people you will never know in person suffered. It is literally your job to know how these things work. How do you start a fund if you don't know how credit works? Anyway, I'm going to pass it to Jen before I spontaneously combust. Jen, please.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to echo everything that you said. Like, it is nice to hear from them, but is this what we wanted to hear? Basically, they're saying, this was an experiment, and they're really blaming what happened with Terra Luna and Grayscale. Like, they're shifting all of the blame and completely ignoring this 1,000-page report that everyone has been going through with a fine-tooth comb that point directly to some huge missteps on their part. And so to just not acknowledge some of the things that have come out in that report and some of the narratives that have been being spoken about in the media and from a regulatory front just seems so tone deaf. I would have rather just not heard from them if this is how they're going to handle it. George?
Yeah, I have like three things I'm thinking about at once. First, no matter how much money you lost, people, you don't deserve death threats. Like, yeah, sure, these guys were dumb, they did some dumb stuff, but they don't deserve these death threats. However, how can you not shoulder some blame? Suddenly, like you said, we've known what credit cycles have been like since forever, since credit has existed, that's been a while, right? We've known credit existed since 1800, so you should know this, right? The other thing I'm thinking about is, this type of stuff happens, but I want to point out that very few people were willing to say out loud that the Luna mechanism was unsustainable. And there are even fewer who were discerning with that critique. And what I mean by that is, if you're just yelling about all the altcoins, your warning has less urgency. However, what I'm really am most shocked about is people getting caught up in this GBTC premium trade that Three Arrows got caught up in. If there's a trade that is so painfully obvious and easy to understand that it can be explained in a singular tweet, it probably isn't a serious trade, and it sounds unsustainable. So they got caught up in two unsustainable trades. Not sure I feel bad for 3AC though, right? They'll be fine. They're competent enough to have had more than $1 billion under assets under management, and they surely have at least $1 million of Monero or Zcash tucked away. So that's more than anyone has. Many people have in the world, so they'll be okay. I don't feel bad for them. They don't deserve death threats, but you should know your credit cycles. Adam, anything to add?
Yeah. So I think the comment that they made about not understanding sort of the way that this stuff works, and I think your comment about us understanding the credit cycles, how they've worked for hundreds of years at this point, I think that there is a counter explanation to this, which is that although that's true, credit has worked differently for the last dozen, a little bit longer than that number of years. And that's largely because the Federal Reserve first, well, actually the Bank of Japan first, but the Federal Reserve most recently and most significantly really broke the credit cycle. And so you didn't have normal behavior. And I mean, one question that I don't know the answer to, but which I'm very curious about is how old are the founders of Three Arrows Capital? because it's very possible that they've lived the majority of their trading lives, perhaps the vast majority or entirety of their trading lives, in this type of environment. And so really what that means is that although they do definitely bear significant responsibility, the Fed also has some culpability in this too, because it has, through its actions and manipulations of credit markets, has effectively trained people to believe the wrong things about how money should work. They did it for reasons that they thought were really good. They did it in ways that they thought were the least worst ways that they could. But you look at the blowups that we see from firms like Archegos, in the kind of traditional capital world, and from Three Arrows Capital, certainly in the crypto capital world. And these are all symptoms of the problem that is monetary manipulation coming from the Federal Reserve. Yeah, George, back to you.
That's church, Adam. I love it. I totally agree. I'm not that old. I'm almost 28 years old, and my entire career has been
was
bull
that
market.
a little dig to Adam there?
No, that was awesome. I agree wholeheartedly. I'm just saying I'm not that old, and my entire career has been a bull market. So I don't know what normal credit markets actually act like. Just because I read books doesn't mean I know anything. Anyway, Sundali, your hand went up, so I want to hear what you.
All right, guys. So what we got from that was just a lot of information. They should have known better. I don't advocate anybody giving any death threats to anybody. They have lost a lot of people's money. And one thing I learned about money is don't mess with a man's money or a female's money, especially a man's money. Three Arrows Capital. Man, it definitely don't mess with rich people's money. Wow. All right. That's it with them. That's all I got. Let's go with, you heard, right? Our president went to go see the prince about this oil thing. And guess who went to go talk to him right afterwards? Guess. Just guess. Out of anybody in the world. Putin. I'm like, bro, don't you got a war going on or something? What? Let's check this out. Who is that guy? All right. Oil less than a week after Biden visits Saudi Arabia. These guys are like best bros. They're like bedfellows. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman shakes hands with Russian President Vladimir Putin during a meeting on the sidelines of the G20 summit in June 2019. Oh, yeah, I kind of remember that time. That's when everybody was mad that he might have allegedly had a reporter assassinated. Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke on the phone on Thursday with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and discussed oil production in his latest visit to Iran, according to the Kremlin. Why it matters. The phone call took place less than a week after President Biden visits to Saudi Arabia, which was aimed in part at pressing the kingdom to increase oil production. Yeah, let's do it, Biden. Let's go. Lower the gas. Sorry about that. Driving the news, Putin and MBS on Thursday stressed the friendly relations between Russia and Saudi Arabia and discussed a global oil market and expanding trade and economic ties, according to the Kremlin readout of the call. The importance of further coordination within framework of OPEC was emphasized, and Kremlin said. Both leaders noted that OPEC and its allied producers are consistently fulfilling their obligation in order to maintain the necessary balance and stability in global energy market. In readout added, Putin and MBS also discussed Syria and Putin's trilateral meeting in Tehran with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi early this week. Big picture. During his summit with 9 Arab leaders in Jeddah last week, Biden made clear that the U.S. continues to be engaged in the Middle East. Ahead of the summit, the White House released intelligence about Iranian plan to sell hundreds of armed drones to Russia for the war in Ukraine. Some saw this as an attempt to drive a wedge between Russia and the Gulf state. Meanwhile, Putin's summit in Tehran on Tuesday was perceived as a signal that he too has allies in the region. Between the line, Thursday phone call between MBS and Russian President serves both Putin, who wants to show Biden's visit didn't harm relationships between Russia and Saudi Crown Prince, who wants to signal he is not in Biden's pocket. What to watch? Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will arrive in Cairo on Sunday to address senior officials from all 22 Arab League member states in another effort by Russia to maintain its engagement with Arab world after Biden's visit. Wow. Well. This is pretty interesting. It seems like there's a lot of moving pieces to this, and it's like a chess game. Everybody's moving one step at a time, just trying to gauge everybody. You know what I mean? Just trying to see how things are going. We'll just have to let this flow. We'll have to let it flow and see how it goes. It seems to me from the G20 meeting, let me show you guys some more information. In the G20 meeting, the prince had some issues. You guys see that, right? The world is slowly turning against the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, even as Trump digs his heels in. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is facing global outcry over the killing of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Khashoggi was killed in Saudi consulate in Istanbul this past October. Prince Muhammed was once seen as the face of reform for the kingdom, but now a central villain in the controversy over Khashoggi's. The world is slowly turning against the crown prince, the de facto ruler of Saudi Arabia, and he's becoming increasingly isolated. It wasn't that long ago that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and the de facto ruler of the kingdom was seen as someone who would modernize his country. Today, Prince Mohammed, 33, is widely viewed as central villain in the brutal killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. All right. This was 2018, right? My only issue is and this was being pushed mainly by the Democrat Party, right? The Democrat Party wanted the prince to take responsibility, wanted to condemn him, right? And then now the Democrats are coming in and being like, hey, Prince, help us out, which he may do. But sometimes people hold grudges. Sometimes people remember. Let's check out this other article that shows, this basically shows the oil and petroleum products that is exported by Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, the largest OPEC petroleum exports to United States, was the source of 5% of U.S. total petroleum imports and 6% of U.S. crude oil imports. Right over here, it explains the top 5 sources of U.S. total petroleum, including crude oil imports by percentage share of total petroleum imports in 2012. We're getting a lot from Canada. That's interesting. And this other one is crude oil. We're getting 62% from Canada. Chelsea Clinton. %3 from Russia, 8%. All right. And that's that. That's that with all of that information. What it shows is that we have business with the prince. And if he wants to lower my gas, he should lower my gas, damn it. I shouldn't have to drive to the airport and it cost me $60. Golly. It shouldn't be 100. Man, Shouldn't be 120. For the last part, we will be looking at the crypto market. All right. Looks like everything's doing good, man. Bitcoin's been rising up from the low 20s to 22,844. Ethereum is at 1,560. The main thing to look at this is the merger. The Ethereum merger is probably the biggest story that's happening this year. There is nothing else that's bigger than the merger. And I think the merger is going to push whenever we get out of the bear market, of course. Because right now, we're going to be considered recession. We're considered at the end of this month, they're going to consider us in recession. But when we get back to the bull market, Ethereum, let's look at ADA. Let me see if I can check how much is staked on ADA. Sorry about that. I'm struggle streaming right now. I'm just trying to look at the percentage of ADA coin staked percentage. Yeah, we'll just have to get that piece of information for you guys. But to tell you the truth, it is a high percentage of ADA being locked up. And this is basically what's going to happen to the merger as well. Let's think of how many percentage of ADA is locked up. and think of it as Ethereum being locked up. So I'm not telling you any financial advice or anything like that. But if I was a betting man, I would be purchasing Ethereum. Ethereum's going to be high. It's going to be high on its supply. All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in. This is Deflationary Tech, and you're in a state of DeFi. Peace.